The Terrifyingly Lyrical Thrills of Carrie by Pauline Kael. From The New Yorker, November 14, 1976. Carrie is a terrifyingly lyrical thriller. The director, Brian De Palma, has mastered a teasing style. A perverse mixture of comedy and horror and tension, like that of Hitchcock or Polanski, but with a lulling sensuousness. He builds our apprehensions languorously, softening us for the kill. You know you're being manipulated, but he works in such a literal way, and with so much candor, that you have the pleasure of observing how he affects your susceptibilities even while you're going into shock. Scary and funny must be the greatest combination for popular entertainment. Anything and funny is of course great, even funny and funny. But we come out of a movie like Carrie, as we did out of Jaws, laughing at our own childishness. It's like watching our team win a ball game. We're almost embarrassed at how bracing it is. This little gothic in a high school setting has a script by Lawrence D. Cohen, taken from Stephen King's unassuming potboiler, about a miserable, repressed high school senior, the daughter of a fanatically religious woman, who has never been accepted by the other kids. Carrie, played by Sissy Spacek, is so withdrawn that she's a slug. Her energy is released only telekinetically, in small ways that people don't recognize. Objects have a habit of crashing when she's around. At the beginning of the movie, she has her first period, at 16, in the gym shower, and doesn't know what's happened. She panics. She thinks she's bleeding to death. Her ignorance makes her a scapegoat for the other girls in the gym. Their ugly feelings about their own periods erupt, and like junior versions of Russ Meyer's super vixens, they laugh hysterically and pelt her with tampons and sanitary napkins. The gym teacher penalizes them for their cruelty, and a few of them scheme to get even with Carrie. Their plan is to have her elected prom queen, and then humiliate her publicly. What we see that they don't is the depth of Carrie's desire to be accepted by them. Her joy at having Tommy, the most popular boy in the class, ask her to the prom and at becoming prom queen transforms her. Her home life is so horrible that this is her first taste of feeling beautiful, and she's a radiant Cinderella. De Palma, a master sadist, prolongs her moments of happiness. He slows the action down to a trance, while we wait for the trap to be sprung, knowing that it will unloose her bottled-up telekinetic anger. It's a beautiful plot, a teenage Cinderella's revenge. Carrie becomes a new trash archetype, and De Palma, who has the wickedest Baroque sensibility at large in American movies, points up its archetypal aspects by parroting movies that have formed it, and outclassing them. De Palma was born in 1940 and started movie-making when he was a sophomore at Columbia in 1959. Carrie is his 10th feature. His 8th, Phantom of the Paradise, a rock horror satire, was, I thought, an underground movie explosion, a slapstick guignol mad ball, but it got a substantially bad press and is just now going into general release. His 9th, Obsession, though no more than an exercise in style, with the camera swirling around nothingness, was great on-the-job training for Carrie. Here, the layered gags that have always been his speciality are joined to his new sweeping, circling camera movements. In the Joyce Carol Oates story, Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been?, a teenage girl's desire for romance also turns into a teenage nightmare, but the story has the ineluctable National Enquirer horror that often makes one recoil from Oates, wanting to go on reading yet not sure if one can bear what's coming. De Palma's humor, he delights in trashiness, saves us from that kind of distress. Carrie is a minstrel joke, a film noir in red. This picture has some of the psychic grip of Taxi Driver, yet isn't frightening in the same way, because it's essentially a pretty piece of paste jewelry. Carrie looks like a piece of candy. When De Palma is most distinctive, his work calls up so many junky memories, it's pure candied exploitation, a funny archetypal nightmare. De Palma uses tawdriness as a tuning fork. No one else has ever caught the thrill that teenagers get from a dirty joke and sustained it for a whole picture. There are no characters in Carrie. There are only schlock artifacts. The performers enlarge their roles with tinny, mythic echoes. Each is playing a whole cluster of remembered pop figures. Sissy Spacek's Carrie goes to Bates High, Norman Bates ran the motel in Psycho, and her gym shower scene is a variation on the famous Psycho shower. At home, Carrie is the unloved Patty Duke in the early scenes of The Goddess. But when, having made herself a dress, she goes to the prom, she's also Katharine Hepburn in Alice Adams. And when she's with her yellow-haired escort, the sensitive jock Tommy, played by William Catt, they're a puppy-love version of Streisand and Redford in The Way We Were. Love Among the Stars is the theme the students have selected for their prom. After Carrie's fall from grace, she's a teenager gone bad, an avenging angel with a fiery sword. At her command, fire hoses stand up like hissing serpents and attack her schoolmates, and she moves through the pandemonium with psychedelic grace, as remote as the Queen in She. De Palma has a background in theater as well as in film. He's very canny about young performers. In his very first shoestring feature, The Wedding Party, he used Jill Clayburgh and Robert De Niro, and he appears to have had a freedom in casting which wasn't evident in Obsession. William Catt doesn't just look like Robert Redford, but acts like a fantasy of Redford at 17. The dark girl with the frizzies, who persuades Tommy to take Carrie to the prom, is played by Amy Irving. This girl's involvement in trapping Carrie is left too ambiguous, but Amy Irving is affectingly troubled in every scene she has, right up to the film's last shocker, when De Palma does a triumphant reprise of a poorly staged bit in Deliverance. The shocker here is as startling as Finley Curie's appearance in the graveyard in Great Expectations. The older, normal characters don't have much life. There's no ricochet effect from the movies they're drawn from, and they're just puppets. But the high school students, each with a whopper crop of hair, bounce off the beach party movies and Peyton Place and Splendor in the Grass and American Graffiti. The villains, the exuberant, beer-guzzling Billy, played by John Travolta, who might be Warren Beatty's low-life younger brother, and his bitchy girlfriend Chris, played by Nancy Allen, with her lewd dimples and puffed ringlets, have the best dialogue. Their language is so stunted that every second word is profane. When these two make out in a car, Andy Hardy is brought up to date. Besieged by a voracious female, he's the Neanderthal stud in a porno. Later, when they're enjoying their viciousness to Carrie, the two have a bile-green tinge, like Margaret Hamilton in The Wizard of Oz. Thank you for listening, and happy Halloween. Oh, and just for Ranger Girl,